Hi guys, welcome back. So quite recently I received a question from a friend. How can I better manage my money? So to give you some context, this friend of mine has been working for several years. He's in his 30s now and he earned a pretty decent income. So he's just planning ahead because he wants to buy a house a few years later. But that's also when he realized, where's my money? He has a shock on his savings, his bank account, and so this triggered him to ask this question, how can I better manage my money? And my friend isn't the only one with this question. A few years ago, I worked with a divorcee who's in her 40s. In her whole life, her finances has been managed by her husband. So when they broke up, they divorced, she was quite lost with what to do with her money. In my opinion, age has very little to do with financial literacy, but I'm sure everyone can appreciate some financial tips. So here are 4 of mine to get you started. Tip number 1, you cannot manage what you cannot measure. Can you recall how much money you had last year on 31st December? Roughly. How about the year before? You see, if we don't know our starting point, how can we tell how far we have progressed? How can we tell that we are progressing in the right direction? There's this story of a boy who asked a wise monk this question. How long will it take for me to reach the top of the mountain? And the monk replied the boy, I don't know, but it's far, so you better start walking. And the boy went, how are you a wise monk if you can't answer a basic question like that? And the monk replied, everyone walks at a different pace. I wouldn't be able to tell how long you may take until you start walking. So if we don't track our money, how will we know how far away is our goal and how fast are we getting closer to that goal? So open up your notebook or write down on some Excel sheet these 4 things. How much assets you have, how much liabilities you have, how much you are earning, and how much you are spending. You don't have to be exact, but you should have a close enough figure. For a CEO and a CFO to manage their company well, they would have to rely and reference to their balance sheet and cash flow statement. So if you want to manage our finances well, I think we should have something similar. If you need a template, I'll drop a link somewhere below for the one that I'm using. And with that, let's move on to the next financial tip. Tip number 2, don't mix your money. Have separate accounts for your wealth and also your expenses. I know many of you have more than one bank account, but are your accounts set up for wealth? A best practice that I can suggest is to keep your wealth account a one-way street where the money is only flowing in and not flowing out. If any money is flowing out, it should be flowing into your investments, and all the money that should be flowing in are your investment returns, your contributions, maybe some lottery that you won. So those are your inlets and there should not be outlets. That's also one way to ensure that your money is compounding, because all the investment return that flow back into the wealth account will then be reinvested into other instruments that you might deploy into. I understand some of you will take advantage of bank accounts interest by putting all your cash together so you guys can hit, say, the highest tier limit for the bank's interest. But that's exactly what the bank want you to do. Put cash with them and so that they can invest the cash out. This is also where people mix up their money. They mix long-term money with short-term solutions. So my second tip to you is to have separate bank accounts. One for wealth and one for expenses. You can have many, but make sure the wealth account is separate from all your other accounts where you're using for your daily transactions, bank transfers, so on and so forth. Ideally, we want the direction of our wealth account to be up and not zigzag. Here's the next tip, which is to understand the concept of deferred spending. You know, there are many budgeting rules out there like the 50-30-20, pay yourself first, needs and wants. There's a lot of budgeting tools and rules and guidelines out there to help you. What I think can really help is a perspective shift with this concept I call deferred spending. Let's assume our income is a big pie and in life we have to pay for bills and expenses. So let's say that goes first. My best suggestion here is try to spend less than 50% of everything that you earn. If you're spending more than 50%, good for you. Just bear in mind there are trade-offs. After we spend for our immediate expenses, money is going to flow into 2 different areas. Your wealth or your deferred spending. I think we can agree that some of our goals in lives are lumpier in nature. For example, when we book a trip to Japan, the air ticket costs us either a few hundreds or few thousands. We have to pay for the trip in one shot. Likewise, there will be many different goals in our life that will be lumpy. For example, renovation, children's education. These are all places where we spend our deferred spending. But one thing for sure, when we look back at the big pie, if our money is gone immediately because of our expenses, and it will be gone later on because of our deferred spending, how much will we have left for our future self? So the concept of deferred spending really is about helping us and reminding us to earmark some of our money, some of our income as our long-term wealth as a money that we do not touch. And for some of you, if you're spending less than 50% of what you earn, great. That means you are able to save up more surplus, and that can actually help you accelerate towards your financial goals. That's also how some people manage to FIRE very early on in life. Not only must they have a decent income, they are also very aggressive in their savings. Last tip is to find your North Star. In the past, sailors used the North Star to navigate in the ocean. So what are you navigating your financial life with? We've all heard friends who said, I want to quit my job, I want to travel around the world, I want to retire, I want this, I want that. What are some of your short-range goals that you wish to achieve in the next 3 to 5 years? Is it a certain feeling that you hope to achieve? For example, to feel financially safe and secure. And what does financially secure mean to you? Does it mean to have 12 months of expenses? Does it mean to have a fully paid up property? Does it mean to have passive income? I think it's really important for us to define what we want in life and what it takes to achieve it. And interestingly, I found that most things that people are aspiring towards or want in life can be quantified into numbers, including feelings. There's this quote by Jim Rohn that I very much agree with. It says, if you don't design your life well, chances are we are going to fall into someone else's design. And guess what they have planned out for us? Not much. So I think setting some goals for ourselves is a really important step in better managing our own finances, our own money. And the other part of goal setting is setting long-range goals. If you're young, your long-range goal might be retirement, your long-range goal might be taking care of your aging parents. So let's say we are talking about retirement. What does retirement mean to you? When do you want to retire and how do you want to retire? These are some questions which I think we need to ask ourselves. We may not need all of the answers now, but I think it's good to explore such a thought experiment from time to time. I hope we can all agree that we probably will reach this stage where someday we may not be able to work anymore, either voluntarily or involuntarily. And wouldn't you agree that it is a good idea for us to prepare towards that day, making sure that we can still take care of ourselves? Oftentimes on retirement, I get remarks like, retirement is very far, retirement is very scary. And just because it's far doesn't mean we cannot think about it, right? We may not do anything about it, but no harm thinking about it. And true enough, I think retirement can be really scary. But the question is, do you want to be scary now or horrifying later? So I have an interesting rule of thumb for those of you who want to retire comfortably at 65 and have no idea to go through all the hassle of calculating how much you may need. If you're starting out in your 20s, you just need to set aside 20% of what you earn. If you're starting out in your 30s, you'll need to set aside 30%. If you're only starting out in 40s, now you got to set aside 40% of what you earn. And if you're in your 50s, you gotta set aside half of what you earn. That becomes atrocious. If you're in your 60s, keep on working. Very hard lah. Jokes aside, this is just a rule of thumb. It is not meant to be accurate. Because from time to time, I hear advice like set aside 20% of what you earn, and this seems to apply to all age group, which cannot be true, right? Because as our runway to retirement gets shorter, we have lesser time to save up. Not only that, we have lesser time for this money to compound. So it is only logical that we need to put in more in order to get the same result. And that's my 4 financial tips for you to get started in better managing your own finances. And if you're still watching, I really appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Taking charge of our own finances isn't rocket science, but it sure takes time and effort for you to ask yourself questions, for you to journal things down, to learn new things. So I'm really glad that you took some time out on my videos today to help you with your learning, to help you with your personal finance journey. I hope you found these 4 tips useful in helping you better manage your finances, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.